Hey everyone, this is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews, and I am your literary ambassador. And today we have Danielle Smith, award-winning author, filmmaker, instructor, public speaker, advocate for survivors of abuse. Welcome, Danielle.
So much. That's me. Oh, shoot.
Now, first let me say this. Congratulations for being nominated Author of the Year.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I am, all those titles that you gave me, I am a survivor of child abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, and suicide. I decided to write my story, and my first book that came out yesterday's tomorrow is my memoir written in fiction format. That was very important to me to have fiction format because dealing with child abuse, one of my punishments was to go to my room a lot and not receive a meal. And I would dive into books at 2 and 3 years old and read and be taken away by the characters. And that was how I survived. So it was important for me to be able to give my readers a chance to get away for a moment, although it's taking you through some ups and some downs, as a good book should, right? So I penned my first book, Yesterday's Tomorrow. After that, I just kind of wanted to be able to reach people more because really it's really a tool for me. I'm not your traditional, I'm not a writer, I'm an author, meaning I'm not coming out with 10, 20 books, Right now, I just penned my memoir and I'm excited about that because I love to offer people different resources to be able to get out of abuse. And that's what I did. During the process of me writing my book, I started a movement called Don't Be Quiet. And my movement is helping those that feel that they don't have a voice. We are the voice for them. So I wanted to be able to help more people that are dealing with abuse. So the movement started. We started out with buttons and t-shirts. And then this year I just produced my first film, which is a docudrama, which is called Don't Be Quiet as well. And that is the visual to my book. So I am narrating different things that happen in the book, which happened in my life. And we're traveling right now with film festivals and super duper excited about that. And as well as I said, I'm an instructor. I teach at one of our local media schools here in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, okay. When did you know that you wanted to be an author?
Wow. So I would say about 12 years ago, God told me that I needed to write my story. I had no clue how, though. I'm an avid reader. I used to write short stories in school, in high school. I loved writing. I did poetry until I was 23. And so I loved writing. That wasn't the hard part. But then to turn around and write a story was different for me, and to write my own story. So in 2016, I reached out to Joylyn Ross, who is my editor. And I had met her at church, actually, and reached out to her and just said, hey, I need some help. Didn't know really, honestly, that she would be the one that would help me through the whole entire journey. But when I told her my ideas, number one, she didn't tell me it was dumb. Okay. So being a survivor, I was told that a lot, that my ideas were dumb, my thoughts were dumb. So when I had this conversation with her, even into my adulthood, I had this conversation with her in 2015. And she told me that I had a great idea and, and told me doing it in fiction format was possible. And I was just like, oh my God, are you serious? And, it took this huge weight off of me. And we began to write. She told me different things to do, and just took me on my literary journey. And the book came out in 2017. So long story.
No. Okay, let me pause right there. This was your second year going to the conference, right?
Correct.
How was it?
Amazing. Listen, I wish that, you know, and Miss Joylyn and I absolutely adore her. You know, I put out there the reason why I adore her so much because I give her many accolades. You know, she is a literary, you know, concierge. Like, she's amazing. She doesn't work with anybody, and I love that about her. You know, I love that she takes her writing craft so seriously. But I'm telling you, I could be her spokesperson because I absolutely adore her. I adore what she does, the seriousness that she has of it, because she's always about excellence.
Yes.
And not about perfection, but about excellence. And I love that about her because I am as well. And she brings such an ease. But another reason why I'm just so, you know, gung-ho about her or just a cheerleader for her. She was there for me, even as my literary coach. She was there for me at a time when I was dealing with abuse in my marriage, and no one else knew. I had disclosed that to her, and she was able to still pull the writing out of me. I was going through so much. And so, you know, mentally, I was going through so much. And when I was like at a standstill, like, I can't write. I'm not in a headspace to be able to write. And for her to be able to still guide me and still get the words out of me, I mean, so yeah, I'm gonna say how amazing she is. You know, she was there for me in a pivotal time in my life, and was able to still do her job as a person, as a literary coach, but also as a woman of God, to be able to say, here, my child, you know what I'm saying? Here's some assistance. She didn't dog me. I didn't hear my business in the streets, you know, none of that. So, you know, the conference last year, I left, and in, you know, less than a year, I doubled my business. And honestly, you know, we were given, I was given the slides that she worked off of. I'm still not done going through them again, because that's what I did. I left, and I went through the slides, and I started doing work. I haven't even finished going through last year's, and I'm about to get this year's. I'm like, goodness gracious. You know, I left that conference this year, and I had, last year she taught us to revamp our LinkedIn accounts. And that's how I got my instructor position. I never thought that I would be an instructor at a college. In my wildest dreams, that was never in the forefront of my mind. It wasn't in the back of my mind. It wasn't in the silent prayer. I just never thought that would be for, you know, for me. And now that I'm doing it, it's so perfect for me. I'm like, God really be knowing what he doing. But I learned that from the conference last year. That's one of many things. You know, this year I left the conference, and before I left, actually, because it's, you know, I left on Sunday, the day after the last day. Before I left, I had 4 gigs to be able to speak. And that's really my platform. Like I said, I'm an author, but I really love speaking. So my platform is really me speaking and talking about abuse and how to get out of abuse, and you know, signs to look for so that you're not in abuse. That's really my platform. I'm an informationalist speaker. And so to be able to turn that around and become a film producer, I never saw that, you know, in my wildest dreams. I've produced plays, I've produced events, but never thought about doing a film. And to have that, you know, on my resume is amazing. And that's why the school reached out to me like, hey, we see what you're doing. Will you work with us? And I'm like, what? You know, so I have no formal education, you know, just my life. I'm an expert at my life, and that's it. And that's all I claim to be an expert at. So, you know, this year leaving the conference, I'm looking for bigger and better things to happen. Can't wait to get the slides again, to still work on some things. You know, we did a lot of things different this year than last year. And I'm looking forward to next year. Listen, it's already on my calendar. I'm ready. I'm so serious. I'm serious. I am looking forward to next year. And I definitely will be there. You know, in every aspect. Like, so it's the bomb. Anybody that needs to go, I don't care what stage of writing you are, you need to be there in Las Vegas next year.
Okay. What is your testimony?
Wow. So my testimony is, as I stated, I'm a survivor of child abuse.
Mhm.
I suffered child abuse by the hands of my mother and her then boyfriend at the time. I was brought out of the home when I was 4 years old, I almost turned 5. I was awarded to the state. And then because I had a relationship with my father at the time, he was awarded custody of me. I
Mhm.
lived with my father until I graduated, until I was done with school. But I went from physical abuse with my mother to then moving in with my father and dealing with emotional and verbal abuse. A lot of people don't really talk about that too much. Whenever people think about abuse, they think about the physical, which
Physical.
I get it. That's the main thing that's out there. But there are so many other types of abuse. There's emotional, there's verbal, there's mental, there's financial, that are just as strong as physical. I lived in the home with my father, as I stated, and there was verbal and mental abuse, things
Mhm.
such as my father telling me that I was just like my mother. I look like my mother. I act like my mother. Well, when you say that in a negative tone,
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
something negative. I don't understand. Okay, so if I look like my mom, but you're saying it in a negative tone, that mean I'm ugly. So I struggled with self-esteem until I was
Mhm.
grown. I was like 22 or so, and one day saw my mom, and I looked at her and I said, "You're pretty." And she said, "Oh, thank you." And I was like, "No, like, you're really pretty." It was the first time I'd ever seen that my mother was pretty. And because my dad had always told me
Yeah.
I look just like my mama, and so
Mhm.
you think of these things that you're telling your children. That's why, our words are so powerful when we talk
Yes.
to our children, so I had self-esteem issues. So I was, although people told me I was cute, I didn't believe them. I didn't understand it because I
Mhm.
didn't have it for myself.
Self. Yep.
So when I told my mom that was when I realized I'm cute too. Hold up, if I look like my mama and I see she's cute,
Mhm.
oh, okay, I'm cute too. And it
Too.
was life
Yes.
changing for me. So then I get out the house, I'm grown, I get into a relationship, and although I didn't live with my mother, past the age of 4, I still had seen enough. I dealt with seeing evidence of violence in the home. I never saw her boyfriend hit her, but I saw the evidence of it, and I could hear the argument. So I knew something was going on.
Mhm.
So when I became an adult, when I was 29, met this guy head over heels, did everything for me. And, I wasn't used to that. I was always the provider for guys because I never wanted a guy to tell me to get out because I heard them tell my mama that. So I wanted to have my own, always have my own. Well, I meet this guy who wants to do everything for me. And, in the beginning, straight off the bat, and I never had that, flowers and, just nice all the time, cooking for me all the time. I needed nothing, gas in my car all the time. I mean, I know seem like minor things to some people, but for
Mhm.
me, I never had
Yes.
that before. So they were major to me, and never just had somebody that wanted to do for me, just nice things. So got with him, and everything was crazy. Started controlling what I wore, my hair, my clothes, where I went, didn't want me working, but got mad if we needed money for something and I wanted to work because I'd always worked.
Mhm.
So that led to a huge argument, and it got physical, and it led to knives being out, and I thought I was going to lose my life that night, or one of us was going to die for
Mhm.
sure. I felt that. Nobody but the grace of God for me to still be here, because he choked me, and I know I was out. I know I was going to die. Like I said, knives out and everything. And I still have a bruise as a reminder, from him,
Mhm.
not stabbing me, but the knife grazed me. And
Mhm.
so all of these things, so I went from physical abuse as a child to then moving in with my father and I having verbal and mental abuse, to then as an adult dealing with physical abuse again, to then later in life in 2014, I married and I dealt with the verbal and the emotional abuse again. It was a cycle. And now, that I'm able to verbalize and understand the different types of abuse, I was able to break the cycle. There was a cycle with my mother and I. My mother and I didn't have a relationship. We would go years or a year without speaking to each other. My mom always put men before me. And when I was when my daughter was 2, I have a 16-year-old now, but when she was 2, my mother and I got into it one time, and she told me, she said, "You and your daughter are going to be just like you and I." And I said, "Not so." And at that moment, I was determined that my daughter and I would break that cycle of abuse between mother and daughter, because then I learned that my mother and my grandmother didn't have a relationship, my grandmother and my great grandmother. So it was a generational curse. And I said, "No, not so. My daughter and I have an amazing relationship. Are we perfect? No. But my daughter loves being around me. I love being around her. We spend time together. We talk. That's my girl. That's my girl, flat out." And so I was able to break that cycle. Well, when I'm actually going through my divorce right now, prayerfully soon, but going through that now, but just realizing that I deserve better. It's so many things. And honestly, my movement, Don't Be Quiet, saved my life first. When I was started Don't Be Quiet, it was just this pulling, God, I want to help more people. I just want to help more. I just want to help people. And it was my heart's desire, and it still is my heart's desire. And I would cry out to God, what else can I do? And when he gave me Don't Be Quiet, I started doing research. And that was when I found out about all the different types of abuse.
Yes,
I looked and I said, wow. I went to my ex-husband and I said, "Listen, you're abusing me." He's like, "I never put my hands on you." I said, "There's more than that." So I shoved a piece of paper at him and I said, "Hey, these are all the different signs of abuse and different types." And he couldn't come to grips with it. But doing that research saved my life. And I said, well, I can't be out here telling people to save their life and, to be free, and I'm bound at home. That doesn't make sense. So I allowed myself to, heal first. And then I started helping people. I took the time to go to counseling. I talked to my friends, which was something I had not done. And I just opened up about my story. And so now I'm just very transparent about things that I've gone through and going through so that I can help others, because, definitely the Bible says that we overcome by the testimonies of our peers, so if I don't know what you're going through, what if I'm going through the same thing and you got out, but you didn't tell me how to get out? How dare you, So it's my responsibility now that I've made it out and that I'm free. I have to pull back my sister. I have to pull up my sister, and I have to pull up my brother. I'm mandated. I'm mandated by God to do that. So I love what I do. I love Don't Be Quiet. I absolutely adore it because I'm helping others.
Okay. What inspires you to write, or what sparks you to write?
Wow. So I'm working on book 2 right now. There is a continuation to Yesterday's Tomorrow, which here's my book.
Yes.
There is a continuation to it. I stopped the first book, right into my adulthood. And this is going to be the continuation of basically how do you survive after child abuse. And it's also going to show you how child abuse was the base to a lot of things that happen in my adulthood. Whatever happens in your childhood is the base to what, how you'll be as an adult. But I like to show people how you're able to thrive and strive, although you've been been through abuse. So right now, what's helping me to write is that I have readers, thank God, that are waiting for book 2.
Yes.
So I'm very honored that there are people that are like, what happened next, And I try to do a teaser by putting the film out in between time, like, okay, look, here's this for y'all. At least let me give you a visual. And that did help because those that have read my book, I'm showing you where the abuse happened in my film.
Okay.
So right now what's pushing me is my readers. Okay. But I have to get it out of me because I know that this book is going to be my victory book. And I'm super excited about it. So.
Okay. How do you feel about reviews?
I love reviews. Listen, I am always telling people how I feel. I feel that And I say that in a loving way. You know, I feel that if someone isn't going to give me a good review, meaning a good review is not, you're giving me 5 stars. A good review is telling me what was wrong with my book, what you liked about it, what you didn't like, so that I can be better, because I'm a student right now. Although I'm a teacher, I'm a student and I want to be better. I'm not perfect and I do know that, but I want to be better always. So a good review to me is somebody being honest. You know, actually Stephanie Bridges, she reviewed my book and told me, like, listen, I didn't understand this part. Like, I felt you need to talk about him more. And I was like, you're right. I'm going to talk about him more in book 2. And I was like, you know, I'm, you know, trying to figure out how I'm going to flip back to it. And I've come up with that way. But she was right. When she explained it to me, I was like, you know what? That definitely makes sense. I was with this guy for 4 years and I gave him like a paragraph, you know, and he was our relationship was very pivotal in my life, you know. And she was like, yeah, you just skip past him. So I listened to my reader and I'm going to fix that.
All right. What was it hard to write books about your life and your journey?
No, it was not. It took me a year to write my first book because I needed to go through so much healing. When, you know, I don't know how it is for everybody that's written their story, but because my story involves, you know, abuse and so forth, you know, I had to relive those moments. And I used to be the type that did not deal with emotions, because growing up, you know, we weren't allowed to cry. We weren't allowed to have emotions. That stuff was like, nah, you know, you weren't supposed to do that. So now as an adult, I'm learning to be with my feelings and acknowledge them. And so Miss Joy Lynn was like, listen, these feelings are going to come back up because you're having these thoughts. So these feelings are going to come up. She said, live in it. But live in it meant feel it. You know, feel it, acknowledge it, and write through those feelings and come out on the other side. Okay, because you've made it. So come out on the other side. And so as I stated, I had to go through counseling again to deal with the emotions, because I'm in a new space now dealing with emotions. You know, that it was not easy for me. You know, so, and I'm so glad I'm here now. So glad. So for me, you know, that's really what it was for me to be able to get book 2 out. I have to deal with these other things I'm going to talk about.
Okay, if you weren't an author, what would you be doing?
You know, another piece of me, I do HR work. So I love to hire and fire. Listen, I tell people that all day. I'm a recruiter and, you know, I've done recruiting, and right now I'm doing recruiting for small businesses. So, you know, if you're a small business, a lot of times that's where we fail at, is hiring people to be able to sustain our businesses. So that is my other love. And actually I would say my first love. I did recruiting while writing my book and everything. I asked God, if I have to work a 9 to 5, a corporate job, please let it be something that I love. And I love recruiting. You know, and I don't want to just leave it there with like, I love hiring and firing. People just think that's so weird that I love to fire people. But I do it because I believe in the company. And it's like, if you don't have the right people working there, I need to get them out so the right people can come in and so that your business can thrive, right? So that is why I like hiring and firing. I like finding the right people to come into your business and make you make money, because that's at the end of the day what you need. So that's what we'll be doing. I love recruiting.
No. What has been the hardest thing about writing a book?
I would have to say the hardest thing was getting my story out. Not getting it on paper, but getting it out of me and then being okay with speaking about it. Because as I stated, that's the main thing that I do, is speaking engagements. And I'm talking about my story. And so in the beginning was kind of hard, like getting in touch with people, because I'm talking about a subject that many people don't want to talk about. Many people don't want to talk about abuse that happened to them 20, 30, 40 years ago. And especially they don't want to talk about it in the church. So, everybody wants to talk about just pray about it.
Yeah.
Okay, what else though? I can't just pray about it. I need to talk to somebody. I need to talk to a counselor. There's steps that you need to take. So, that's that's definitely that was the hardest thing for me.
Okay. What is your genre?
Fiction. Yep.
It's just fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I will keep my books in fiction. As I stated,
Okay.
they helped me to make it out. One of my favorite books was Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Every night there were, well, I don't want to say every night, but there were a lot of nights I didn't receive a meal. And so I would dive into the character and I was Goldilocks and I would have porridge. Sometimes it was too hot. Sometimes it was too cold. And sometimes it was wet, just right. Mm-hmm. I would dive in, I would become that character and I would have porridge on those nights when I didn't have anything to eat. So that's why it was important for me to write my book in fiction format and people to dive away just for a moment, because that's what I did. And that's how I survived not getting a meal all the
time. Okay. What projects are you working on right now?
So I have book 2 that will be out in 2020. I'm also working on an anthology. It's a group of me and 4 other women. We're talking about relationships, and we're really coming from the side of where you're your auntie. Okay. So I didn't have an auntie growing up that told me about relationships, told me which way to go and which way not to go, and tell me about the ins and outs of men and what they'll do. And, so I didn't have that. So we are going to be your aunties. We've been in relationships, some of us are divorced, and we're not coming from a male bashing. We're not bitter. We're all thriving in majority of us are thriving in relationships now after divorce. And it really is just, we want to talk to you and tell you, my sister, my friend, my girl, my sister friend, my girlfriend, you know what I'm saying? Like, just to have a conversation and say, hey, don't go that way. These are red flags. They ain't cute. This red flag ain't no red bottom, okay? You know what I'm saying? It's a red flag saying go away from there because this is not good for you. And good for you doesn't always mean that this person is abusive. Okay, and I think people misconstrue that, like, oh, you telling me not to go that way because no, I'm not saying that. Like, maybe they just, can't see the entrepreneurship in you. You're an entrepreneur, but they want you to go and be a 9-to-5 person, or they want you to be at home. Then that means that you're not a good fit. If they can't see your future, if they can't see your dream, but they could be loving, they can be all these different things. But if they can't see your dreams, nah, baby, run, run the opposite way, And so just, if they can't see who you are, it doesn't always mean abuse. So just that's what the book will be about. We're all giving our short stories, and we'll have some journaling in there as well. I'm also working on a full feature. So my books will be turned into a full feature film. And then I'm writing it. I'm writing and producing and directing it as well. And I have a team. I have a co-director, Tasha Coates. I also have a new production company out called Perspective Media Group, who I'm doing with my co-director, who is Tasha Coates as well. We are working on some new shorts that'll be out soon, talking about testimonies. Listen, that's something that we don't do in church a lot anymore, is testimony service. And as I stated before, we overcome by the testimonies of our peers. Oh my goodness. And so we are bringing back testimony service, and we're bringing and telling people, some things like we have a woman who dealt with being a lesbian. How did she get there? How did she get out? All these different things. There's so many different testimonies that we'll have. So that's something new that I'm working on as well. We'll have a lot of shorts that are coming out in 2020.
Okay. What has been your greatest accomplishment in the literary industry?
Completing my book, but not even just completing it, but listening to Miss Joy Lynn. She laughs at me all the time because I'm like, all I wanted to do was write a book. And here I am speaking, I got a film out now. Now I'm an instructor. All I wanted to do was write a book. So my greatest accomplishment was writing the book. and then being open and saying yes to God. That's all I did was I said yes to God. God, whatever you want me to do, I'm going to do it. And whatever you want me to do to get to your people, whatever you want me to do to be able to help them, I said yes to him and said, use me as a vessel. And that is all that I've done. So the greatest thing was me writing the book and then saying yes to God.
Yes. How can readers get in touch with you?
My website is I am Danielle D Smith.com, and that is Danielle, DANIELLE, like Danielle, Smith.com. It's an affirmation for me. I'm telling you who I am. I am Danielle D Smith.com. Also, I'm on Facebook and on Instagram under I am Danielle D Smith. I also have my movement on Instagram and Facebook under Don't Be Quiet and the number 1. And I'm on Twitter at I am Danielle D.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to add before we close?
No, I believe I said it all. Listen, I know I have a big mouth, but I get so excited about what I'm doing because, I'm excited that I said yes to God. People, they wonder, like, how are you doing all this stuff? How are you getting all these things? I literally said yes to God, and I threw my hands up, and I'm not battling with anything. I'm listening to what he's telling me to do, and I'm doing it, and that's it. I'm not thinking about how I'm gonna get the money to do it, how I'm gonna get the provisions. All I did was say yes, and if that's what he told me to do, he gonna give it to me. He's gonna give me everything that I need. Why? Because he told me to do it. So I leave you with that. Just, if God's giving you something to do, do it. Just tell him yes and do it, and don't worry about anything else. Is that hard? Yes, it is in the beginning, but it is not in the long run, and you will be so much better. I am so stress-free right now because of it. Am I perfect? No, but I am stress-free because I am listening to God and doing what he's told me to do, and he's just been taking care of me in ways that are so miraculous.
All right. There you have it. Danielle D Smith. Thank you so much for doing this, and I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And this is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. Happy reading, and I love you. Bye-bye.